moral arguments can explode in seconds, even when both sides believe they are defending decency and common sense. In political and religious conflicts, people often feel that the other side is not mistaken, but morally dangerous. This occurs because moral judgments begin with fast intuitions that feel self-evident, followed by reasoning that seeks support. Once a moral feeling forms, the mind searches for evidence that confirms it and ignores what threatens it. The cost is rising contempt, broken relationships, and a public life where compromise looks like betrayal. Groups also lose useful ideas because they stop listening to anything that sounds like the enemy camp. Imagine a family dinner where one comment about fairness, faith, or freedom turns the room tense and guarded. Voices rise, motives are questioned, and the discussion shifts from solving problems to defending identity. This video will explain why that shift happens and how understanding moral psychology can lower the heat. This video is inspired by The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, and if these ideas help, subscribe to learn more each week. A useful model divides the mind into an elephant that reacts and a rider that explains. The elephant represents quick intuition, while the rider represents language-based reasoning and control. Most moral judgments start with the elephant, then the rider jumps in to justify the reaction. The rider is skilled at inventing explanations that make a snap judgment sound thoughtful and consistent. This is why arguments feel like debates, but often function like lawyers defending a client. Social pressure intensifies this because moral talk protects reputation and recruits allies during disputes. Once the rider commits to a defense, confirmation bias favors supportive evidence and rejects threatening details. The mind can change, but it usually happens through contact with other people, not solo logic. A practical move is to delay your response, name your first reaction, and then look for what might revise it. Another move is to ask what value is being protected before deciding what facts you even trust. Moral judgment functions much like taste, with multiple receptors that respond to various moral concerns. These foundational receptors include care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, and liberty, each highlighting specific patterns as significant. Care focuses on suffering and need, while fairness monitors cooperation and exploitation. Loyalty responds to signs of group commitment, and authority reacts to rank, duty, and legitimate leadership. Sanctity reacts to contamination and degradation, while liberty reacts to domination and bullying. Individuals vary in which foundations they prioritize, so the same event can trigger different moral responses. Political disagreements often follow this pattern, with one side relying on fewer foundations and the other using more. When two people rely on different foundations, each can misinterpret the other as irrational or malicious. A clearer approach is to identify which foundation is active, then translate your concern into that moral language. This translation does not require surrendering your values, it simply increases the likelihood of being understood. A moral matrix is a shared web of meanings and norms that defines what is right for a community. Once within a moral matrix, many judgments feel obvious because the group lens filters what appears relevant. One political style centers on care and equality, making harm and unfairness the primary moral alarms. Another political style balances all 5 core foundations, so order, loyalty, and sanctity also matter. Liberty divides, with some emphasizing protection for the underdog, and others for the individual. These differences create 2 moral languages, so the same policy can sound compassionate to one group and reckless to another. The result is talking past each other, as each side argues from premises the other does not share. Problems intensify when one foundation is treated as the only legitimate moral concern. A better path is moral pluralism, recognizing multiple moral concerns while still choosing your own priorities. If you want to practice translating between moral languages, please subscribe for weekly exercises you can try in conversations. Morality guides individuals and binds groups into a shared purpose and identity. This binding creates loyalty and trust within the group, but it can also block empathy towards outsiders. The hive switch, a temporary shift from self-focused to group-focused thinking, is a key concept. It can be triggered by synchronized movement, shared music, chants, and other collective rituals. When activated, people feel connected to a larger whole, and their personal boundaries soften temporarily. This feeling is powerful because it fosters solidarity, but it also makes disagreement feel like disloyalty. This is why moral communities can be generous towards their own, while reacting harshly to outsiders. The effect fades, but repeated rituals can make group identity feel permanent and morally sacred. Understanding the hive switch clarifies why political rallies, religious services, and team victories shape moral certainty. It also explains why calm facts rarely change opinions when group emotion has already fused people into one side. Disagreement becomes easier when you stop viewing the other side as stupid and start inquiring about what they are protecting. Begin by identifying the foundational values at stake, then restate your point in that moral language. If someone is reacting out of loyalty, address issues of belonging and trust before discussing costs and benefits. If someone is reacting due to a sense of authority, address concerns of duty and stability before arguing for change. If someone is reacting due to a sense of sanctity, address concerns of contamination and degradation before insisting it is merely a matter of preference. This approach works because people rarely revise their intuitions under pressure. They do so through social contact and respect. Hostile discussion causes the elephant to lean away, while affection or admiration makes it lean toward the other person. As reasons circulate, new intuitions can form, and judgments can shift without anyone feeling humiliated. A useful practice is to listen for sacred language, then ask what would feel like betrayal if the policy changed. Once that value is visible, you can propose trade-offs that honour it while still pursuing your own moral aims. The goal is not to eliminate moral conflict, but to understand why it arises, even among decent people. Intuition guides us, and reasoning often follows as advocacy, making us feel certain, even when our certainty is tribal. Moral foundations explain why different people react to different signals, and why disagreement can feel like a threat. Moral matrices explain why groups share a sense of obviousness, and treat other moral perspectives as confusing or wrong. The hive switch explains why collective emotions can unite people into teams that punish dissent and distrust outsiders. The antidote is moral pluralism, recognizing that multiple moral concerns exist and none alone defines decency. You can hold your convictions while still learning the other side's moral language and the values behind it. Start by naming the foundation you are using, then ask which foundation would make the other position feel necessary. This single shift reduces contempt and makes space for conversations that change intuitions rather than escalating defenses. If you value calmer conversations across moral divides, please subscribe, as upcoming videos will practice these tools with real examples.